You never think the end of your marriage is going to come in the form of a casual sentence. You imagine anger, some blowout argument, someone throwing dishes or storming out the door. But you never imagine this. Just a quiet, cold statement over coffee that hits you like a ton of bricks. 4 cold words from an emotionless face as she stares at you and says, "I want a divorce." That's what my wife told me. A woman that I'd been married to for 23 years. And she uttered those words as if she was telling me to take out the trash. No emotion, no feelings of hesitation, and no eye contact. Just those 4 words, "I want a divorce." I blinked when I heard her, and at first thought maybe I didn't hear her correctly, as she was just sat there, calm and cold, like she had been practicing it for months in her head. There was no fight. There was no apology, and it was as if she had detached from any emotion while looking at me as someone she did not know. I didn't respond at first. I was so dumbstruck by those words, and I felt like my brain had shut down. It was as if someone flipped a switch, and all I could hear was this dull ringing in my ears. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was just numb all over. I tried talking with her and asking if she was joking, but I could feel she was determined and only wanted to quickly depart from my presence. I didn't receive any response as she gathered a suitcase from the closet. I started to plead with her not to leave as the tears were pouring down my face. She made me feel small at that moment as she ignored the pain she was causing me and then told me she had packed a few of my things as she motioned towards the suitcase. This indicated that it was already decided that I was the one leaving our home. She just made the decision that we were over and I was leaving our house now when she wanted, and it didn't matter where I was going to go. I wanted to protest, to argue, as my anger was swelling up inside me, but I knew this was not going to get me anywhere. I'd seen too many shows and news reports of men being hauled off to jail over unproven allegations just because they were the man in the relationship. I knew as a man that I would never be on the winning side and just humbly accepted my fate. I took my bag and walked out the door without even pausing, without even looking back. I threw the suitcase into my truck and gave a silent prayer that I had at least still had this. I didn't even know what I had in my suitcase or where I was going to stay, and I just backed out of the driveway and drove off. I drove for over an hour as I just wanted to get as far away from our house as possible. I felt as though there was a huge invisible fence around my home that I had to escape, and I wanted to be so far away that I would not be tempted to return home. I eventually parked at a fast food restaurant and went inside. I sat in a booth for over an hour as my mind was spinning in circles trying to make sense of what had happened. I could not comprehend anything, and I played everything out over and over and over again in my head. As the hours passed and daylight gave way to the dark night sky, I slowly walked back to my truck knowing I had to find a place to lay my aching head. The first few days after I left, I didn't eat, I didn't shower, and I didn't want to talk with anyone. I just stayed in the shabby motel I found. My refuge inside there was too quiet, it was too still, and it was as if the thoughts swirling around my head were being spoken out loud, and I could not get them to shut up. I constantly checked my phone to see if my wife had called me, and I might have missed it. I would sit for hours staring at my phone screen, looking at her social media posts, and then realizing that any photos of us together had already been deleted. I kept believing that this was some kind of test or a breakdown that she had, and she would recover from it and then would come back to me and say, "I don't know what I was thinking." The thing was, she never came back. She never tried to talk with me. There were no answers to my calls. She didn't return any emails or texts. Nothing. Not once. That was the thing that messed me up the most. There was no closure, no confrontation, and no final argument. It was just her absence and the silence that followed. I sat with that silence like it was a person. It followed me everywhere. It got into my head and turned the simplest moments into agony. Everything seemed to remind me of her and of us as a couple. The few clothes that she had packed for me brought memories from times together when I wore those clothes. It seemed like I could even smell her perfume and the scent of her hair after she got out of the shower. It was in my brain. Everything was a reminder. People say it gets easier with time, but let me tell you that time didn't help. Not for months. If anything, time made it worse because the further away she got, the more questions I had. Was it real? Was she already cheating? Was I that blind? Was I that boring? And the worst question of all, did she ever really love me? You spend decades thinking you're building a life together. You make sacrifices. You overlook flaws. You share secrets. And you give years of your body, mind, and soul. Then one day you realize, maybe she didn't feel the same way. Maybe she was just waiting for the right time to leave. My first month alone was the worst. It was the hardest as I was lost. Month 2, I was angry. I was angry at her and angry at myself. I was angry at the world as I didn't deserve this. Then the month came where I was ashamed. I felt as if I failed as a man, and I hated myself for missing her, for still loving someone that I didn't care enough to explain why she left. I'd sit on the bed staring at the television, not even watching it, just letting the sound fill the room. I didn't want to go out, didn't want to talk with anyone. The loneliness wasn't just emotional, it was physical. I then started drinking more, not falling down drunk, but enough to blur the edges and allow myself to relax and not constantly have her on my mind. I found that a glass of whiskey each night allowed me to sleep for a few hours. But I soon found one drink turned into 2, then more, and then a couple of nights each week soon became nightly. There were nights I would lie in bed, curled up on one side, instinctively reaching for her in my sleep, and then waking up to an empty space where she used to be. That was the part that broke me. I remember a specific night, maybe around month 4. I was driving home from the grocery store and I hadn't spoken to a single person all day. As I was driving, I just lost it. I broke down. I pulled over to the side of the road and sobbed. It was those full body sobs, you know, the ones where your whole body is shaking. I found myself crying into my hands like I hadn't since I was a kid. It was at this point where it hit me. She's gone. She's not coming back. This is my life now, alone and abandoned, left behind like an old jacket she forgot she ever wore. My friends tried to help me, but they had their own lives, and they really couldn't understand what I was going through. Their calls eventually stopped, and the invitations slowed down as their lives were normal, and I was in that dark place all divorced men find themselves. I wasn't one of them anymore. I was the reminder to others what could go wrong. The one person no one wants to sit next to, as I represented something that could happen to them. I can't really blame them as I didn't know what to do, so how could someone else know for me? I remembered someone had tried to give me the generic advice everyone gives. You know, you need to get it back out there. Try a dating app. And the dreaded, I have this single friend I want you to meet. I was at least smart enough to know that none of these would fix the pain I was experiencing. I didn't need a date yet. I didn't need a pep talk either. What I needed was time. Time to grieve. Time to hate my ex. Time to hate myself. I needed time to feel and get rid of every damn thing I had been burying down inside me since the day she forced me out of our house. Even though it was easy to hate someone for doing this, I must admit there were good memories also. Those are what made it so hard. When I would think about the way she used to laugh or how she touched my hand, special little things like that are what make a connection with me. I know she was a great mother, and as much as I hate to admit it, she was for the most part a great wife. It was just the way she booted me out of her life and our home that affected me so much. It was cold, it was emotionless, and she was so detached. This is what I couldn't reconcile. How can you fit 2 totally different women into a memory of the same person? Was she pretending all those years and this was who she really was? Or did she just stop loving me and was too cowardly to say so until she had planned her escape? I remember the first time that I saw her after I had moved out. It was around the 5th month of my absence, and it erased any recovery I had made up to that point. We live in a small city of about 80,000 people in the Midwest, so it is not easy to not see someone else at some point in time. As I drove by a gas station convenience store, I saw her walking towards her car that was at a gas pump. I'm not sure if she saw me or not, but I know she did not make any acknowledgement if she did. I saw that she looked happy with a glow about her face. She had a new hairstyle and wore new clothes, making me think about the shabby old ones I was wearing, and it was at this point I noticed a man pumping the gas into her car. This man was not a stranger to her from the way they looked at each other as I continued driving. He was someone very close to her. Very close. It was then I broke down again. I had to pull over into a parking lot and just lost it. I cried like a damn fool for what seemed like forever. When I recovered, I drove home and smashed that picture frame that held a photograph of her. It was not because of hate, but it was because I felt so powerless in the direction my life had taken. That was what no one talks about. The feeling of having no control in your life and being left alone. It is like someone ripped your personal story out of your hands and rewrote it without any input by you. It was then, though, something shifted inside of me. I stopped feeling sorry for myself and for what my life had become. I decided I needed to get my life in order and move forward. I wanted to take back control of my life as I was tired of being miserable. I checked out of the motel and found a small studio apartment to rent. It was not something I would ever consider before, but now I was facing reality and wanted a place of my own. I wanted to decorate it the way I wanted, and I wanted to be the master of my domain. I looked at my meager belongings that I was able to bring from that dreadful night and threw everything out. I wanted nothing to remind me of her. I bought new clothes, new shoes, and even got a haircut at a different barber. I wanted a whole new me. All this did not fix the pain, though, but it gave me control, and that was something I had not felt in a long time. I started concentrating on myself after looking in the mirror and saw a man no woman would desire. This led me to begin walking every morning and doing calisthenics, as I couldn't afford a gym membership at this point. I started watching what I was eating and cut out anything that could be purchased through a drive-thru. I even started to listen to music again as it gave me hope. Not the reminder of a lost love, but the reminder of a bright future. I also admit I started seeing a therapist. I knew that I wanted to talk with someone about what was going on in my life, but I didn't want anyone close to me to know the details. And you know what? It actually helped. Just being able to tell someone my feelings was like a burden being taken off my shoulders. I also started writing a journal. I just dumped my thoughts onto a page, and this helped me see patterns that I was going through, as well as admit things to myself. I was able to write that I still loved her, even with all that she had put me through. I still hated her for what she had caused. I still missed her as we had spent a great deal of our life together, and I wish she would never come back, and I would never see her again. Here I am at month 7, and the divorce is still in motion. I'm not okay yet, but I am much better. I'm not sitting in the dark every night and drinking until I feel numb. I'm also not begging the universe for answers that will never come to me. What I am is a man who is still here. I'm breathing, I'm focusing, and I'm moving forward one step at a time as I look forward to a future that I control. I refuse to go backwards, and I won't let my soon-to-be ex-wife control me anymore. I'm submitting this not to be profound or inspire anyone. I know that there are other older men like me that are going through a divorce and they feel like they are alone. I say to those men, you have not been abandoned. There are others like you who are here for you. Just get out of bed each day. You don't have to pretend that you're okay, but you do need to make one small change in your situation and keep showing up for yourself. Eventually, the pain stops being a storm and it becomes something you can manage. You will become someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser, and someone who can finally say, she left me, but she did not destroy me. I am still here. I know that is where I am heading. I want to thank Henry, who's known as Hank, for letting me share his story and getting it out to the world, and hopefully helping other divorced men or men who are going through a divorce to know that there are others out there who have been where you're at. We are there as a community. So if anybody else would like to share their story, just email me at talkingdivorceafterwife@yahoo.com. Stay strong.